Okay, 2 in one night. Does anyone else, specifically Zerg players, hate, I don't know, those little widow mines that they can mass produce, scatter throughout everywhere, and completely destroy an entire line of Zerglings in one fell swoop? Or the fact that drops are so successful right now, which, you know what, for an unsuspecting Zerg or Protoss can completely decimate a mineral line, causing us to pretty much lose right then and there. Or, in terms of my personal gripe, how the fact that the Swarm host is such a situational beast that not only do you have to invest in, at some point, Roach Hydra or Hydra to begin with, but also the fact that them stand alone is not nearly enough to really do anything. I'm going to talk to you about that today. About Terran game versus Zerg game. TVZ. My name is Loopy Nocturne, Oddish. On StarCraft, I am a Silver League gamer right now, trying to progress her way up into Gold. I am trying every season to get at least one ladder up. Eventually, I wish to become smart enough to hit Master. But, you know what, that's aspirations. So I thought I'd talk to you about. So in terms of the capacity of drops right now, they are a nuisance because of the fact that most people do not build static defense, well, especially Zerg. They do not build static defense around their mineral line because of the fact that it costs so much. Not just in terms of mineral count, but because of the fact that you lose out on a drone, which means that you lose on a larva. And in a high-paced game where you're trying to build up your economy, you're trying to get ahead, build your army to a stable pace or in a pace where you can overwhelm your opponent, and then those drops come in and everything is screwed. Why? Because you didn't build spore crawlers or spine crawlers. Both of them you would need, actually. And that's the problem, because drops have always been a problem in terms of Terran play. They are a staple of Terran play, being that they are a separate, micro-intensive aspect. And in all honesty, you shouldn't really be doing drops unless you're really good at both managing a large army and a small army. But that's a Zerg player or a Terran player. But yeah. The only real solution is to compromise and to build spore crawlers and spine crawlers, at least one each, at your mineral line. And this actually goes hand in hand because I guess at this point it'll be Terran and Protoss versus Zerg, Widow Mine, but DTs have always been a problem. That will never change. As long as Protoss have access to DTs at a reasonable time, which is usually around the 10-minute mark, when we're producing Hydras or Mutas. Mutas are just, we do not have detection. And that's the problem. We have detection in terms of one way. And that really is, well, two ways. One mobile, one stagnant. And that is either we turn an Overlord into an Observer, which throwing it in as a combat unit risks it of being killed much quicker, or we use static defense. And at the end of the day, I think the only way we're going to get past that is static defense. Now, Widow Mines are just as annoying because of the fact of the amount of splash damage that they do. Which is, you know what? Once it's fully upgraded, it's massive. It is a well-played Terran player can decimate an entire army with the support of Widow Mines, with minimal casualties to them. And it's especially true because of the fact that Terrans do not possess in their army an actual melee unit. Long as you're not counting SCV Rush at the beginning of the game as a legitimate melee tactic. So because of that, all you have to do is have the Marines spread out, the Widow Mines in, melee Zerg or Ultralisk or Zealot or whatever come in, hit the melee units, kills them, or goes past the gap of, the no man's land, I guess, of the battles, and hits the range units, the army of the opposing player. And that's why they're so good. because they have the ability to attack from a distance and attack in large numbers because of the fact that they can be produced with a reactor. And that's problematic, and honestly, the only way that you can really solve a blockade of Widow Mines is to sacrifice units. And the easiest units to sacrifice are Zerglings, because they produce 2 at a time, they cost 50 minerals, 25 minerals each, half a supply each. It's just easy enough to cause those Widow Mines to detonate on those Zerglings, because they only detonate on one target at a time. Detonate those, and once the recharge timer comes in, come in with your units with an observer and just kill them. And that's a problem that a lot of people have because they don't think to create observers. As soon as you see Widow Mines, no, as a rule of thumb, actually, you should have an observer out. Now, here's my personal gripe about these new units, really. Now, in terms of Protoss, Oracle, yeah, that's annoying, but it does not live up to the same annoyance level as, honestly, as drops, because of the sheer fact that drops have way more power with sending 4 Marauders down into your base and completely obliterating you, or 8 Marines. Oracle, easy to kill. It's not that hard. It's a weak spaceship. It's fast, but it's weak. Send your queen over, or send a couple stalkers over, or send a couple marines over, and it'll run away within due time. Their Tempest, that doesn't really come until late game, and it's a but it's a strong motherfucker. NSFW, not safe for work. It's strong, and it does a lot of damage, but it does it from a range, and it's support. Now, the problem I have is that, in terms of the new units for Zerg, we got 2. The first one is the Viper, which I have been too afraid to spend the resources to even touch. It is intimidating because it is a caster, and when you have a big army, it is intimidating to switch from big army to the smaller units, like trying to switch between Infestors and Vipers, and that's why I don't touch the caster units yet. That's something that I need to work up to. But the problem I have is honestly the Swarm Hosts, because they have so much potential, yet the only time they're ever useful is versus Protoss. And the very specific scenario is that you have creep spread everywhere, or at least a good portion. Best example that we see it in terms of pro games, Scarlet's done this very well, is that she spread a whole bunch of creep, put spine crawlers along the way, put 2 evolution chambers so that the Vipers can get them, and with the Vipers, and with the spawn hosts, or whatever they were called, and with Hydras, and having that mix, but having that static wall is the only way you can use them. Or having a Hydra spawn host, or whatever mix, because it's all ranged units. Now, putting them by themselves is very risky and very foolish, because they just, as great as they are, once there's that little gap where the units get killed and you're waiting for them to respawn, they're dead. And because of the fact that it is significantly easier honestly, for Protoss and Terran to get detection, they die a lot quicker. Probably have a good chance against Zerg, but right now, those little things they cannot attack air, therefore they are useless against dominant mutaplay that is happening. What I would change? I don't know. Maybe have it so that there is a stim boost feature that you can get, or that, you know what, I actually have a great idea that I just thought of, that would allow them a little bit extra time in order to be used to. Simple. Give the extended time upgrade as a standard, but give us the ability to use sort of a stim pack unit ability where we can sacrifice the life of our units to instantly create more. Now, this would also probably have to be on a time where it would have to be a significant amount of health, but that's just throwing it out there because of the fact that the first thing that you could do is literally spam it until it's dead, and obliterate something really quickly, but of course, even with the extended time, they're eventually going to die, and then you have dead units. But it's still an idea, because right now they are the Warlock, I guess, or that's a bad example actually. But they cannot defend themselves once their Locust is dead. It is a siege unit that could do so much more, but I feel that its cost. And the fact, honestly, its cost and the fact that it is such a big unit, and the fact that even though it is a really interesting and unique unit, it doesn't have the kick that it needs. And it's only useful in Protoss, and maybe, well, against Protoss and Mech play. But yeah, this is my opinion. I'm Oddish, Leapy Nocturne. Thanks for watching. Post your comments and opinions in the comment section. I'd love to read them. Thank you. Bye.